The quiet courage of starting over. The tavern was in Reykjavík. Snow pressed softly against the windows, not in a storm, but in a steady hush that made the whole city feel wrapped in wool. The harbor lights shimmered in the distance, and the air inside the tavern carried the scent of cedar smoke and warm bread. A traveler stepped in, brushing frost from his coat. The cat, curled near the hearth, opened one eye in judgment and then decided he was acceptable. Alex looked up from polishing a glass and offered a small, welcoming nod before returning to his work. I set another log on the fire and turned toward the traveler. My name is Lion. I keep the fire steady, I pour the drinks, and when the road feels long, sometimes I will even tell a story or two. I gestured to the chair across from me. And what is your name, traveler? He hesitated as if the question carried more weight than expected. Jonas, he said. Well met, Jonas. Sit. Warm your hands. The cold here has a way of finding old worries and settling into them. He sat, staring into the flames. After a moment, he spoke. I think I've ruined my life by starting over. And there it was, not shouted, not dramatic, just placed gently between us like a fragile cup. Jonas explained that he had left a career everyone admired, a life that looked stable from the outside. Friends would call it reckless, family would call it foolish, some called it selfish. And now, he said, exhaling, I'm terrified they were right. The cat stretched, hopped onto the bench beside him, and leaned just enough to be felt. A silent reminder you are not alone in this moment. Starting over, I said, has always been mistaken for failure by people who fear motion. But fear still sat heavy on his shoulders. So I told him a story. Once I knew a sailor who trusted a compass that guided him for years. It had never failed. It always pointed true north. Until the day it didn't. At first he blamed the sea, then the sky, then himself. He clung to the compass anyway, sailing in circles because the idea of discarding it felt like betrayal. That instrument had shaped his identity. Without it, who was he? One night, exhausted and lost, he set the compass down and looked up. The stars were still there. They had always been there. The compass had been a tool, not a destiny. Letting it go was not a failure. It was remembering that guidance can change without meaning you were wrong to trust what came before. Jonas listened, his breathing slowing. Starting over, I told him gently, is often just the moment you realize you've been holding a broken compass. Jonas rubbed his hands together. But what about everyone else? He asked. Their disappointment, it feels louder than my own voice. Alex set out a fresh candle on the table, its flame steady. Even small lights push back the darkness. I leaned closer. The people who love you, I said, often fear your change because it forces them to examine their stillness. Your courage unsettles the bargains they've made within their own lives. That does not make them villains, it makes them human. But your life is not a monument to their comfort. It is a living thing, and living things grow in directions no one can fully predict. The cat flicked his tail as if punctuating the thought. Starting over is rarely loud. It is not the triumphant music of stories. It is the quiet courage of waking each day and choosing uncertainty over a familiar emptiness. Jonas admitted that his old life had felt like wearing a coat stitched for someone else. Impressive, heavy, but suffocating. And this new path? I asked. He smiled faintly. Terrifying, but it fits. There is wisdom in that. Fear is not always a warning. Sometimes it is simply a sensation of unused muscles stretching for the first time. I reminded him that every meaningful journey begins with disorientation. Seeds break before they grow. Shorelines disappear before new continents appear. The tavern held the silence kindly while he absorbed this. Outside, snow continued its patient descent. Jonas's shoulders lowered, tension easing like a knot finally understood. I think, he said slowly, I was waiting for permission. Ha ha ha, most travelers are. They wait for the world to certify their longing as reasonable. I gestured around the tavern, a place built from a million uncertain choices. Consider this your permission, not from me, from yourself. You already stepped onto the road. The bravest part is done. He exhaled, and something unspoken left with that breath. The cat approved by settling fully against his side. Jonas finished his drink and stood. Alex clasped his shoulder briefly, a quiet benediction between strangers who share a moment of understanding. At the door, Jonas paused, not to seek more answers, only to acknowledge that he was carrying fewer doubts than when he entered. The cold air slipped in as he opened the door. Snowflakes drifted through the lantern light. Then he stepped back into the night, and the tavern returned to its steady breathing. If you are standing at the edge of your own beginning, unsure whether to step forward, let this moment sit with you. Growth rarely announces its comfort. More often, it whispers through restlessness and calls it possibility. Listen closely. There may be a road waiting that fits you better than the one you've been told to walk. The fire settles into a low, steady glow. Alex dims the lanterns one by one, and the cat circles twice before claiming the warmest patch of floor. Outside, the snow continues to fall, soft and unhurried. I watch the door for a moment longer, thinking of all the travelers who have stood where Jonas stood, suspended between fear and hope. Starting over is not an erasure of what came before. It is a conversation with it, a promise that your story is still being written and that you are allowed to hold the pen. If tonight's tale found a quiet place inside you, carry it gently. Let it sit beside your own questions. There is no rush to resolve them. Some answers bloom only when given patience and warmth. And when the road feels uncertain again, remember that uncertainty is not an emptiness, it is space. Space where something new can take root. My friend, the lanterns will remain lit and the fire will be warm even when the door closes behind you. Return whenever the road feels heavy or when your heart seeks quiet company. Carry what serves you, leave the rest by the hearth, and know that this place and these words will wait patiently for you. Until then, travel gently and let the night watch over you.